So in this series, we're actually going to get textures loaded in, but we're going to do it a slightly different way. Um, and also, obviously, we're going to get a model replacement. But the way we're going to do it this time is by attaching a FLVER file to another. In this case, we're going to make this file a template. Um, obviously, we're going to put a monocle on a crab. But yeah, we're gonna make the monocle on the top hat its own FLVER file, and then we're gonna attach it to the crab, um, and just see if it just is easier for you if you're having problems getting textures to load. And then after this series, I will have a very short one for another possible solution to why your textures aren't working. And it'll also be through the attach, but it'll be on a different character. So obviously, so far, you know what I'm doing is I'm adjusting it. I would just personally advise before you move any individual object of what you're going to be importing, just make sure that the current textures that you're using um, work. So you see how I'm moving everything at once, moving the eyeglass and the hat. I'm just trying to get into a general position to see what it looks like, but before I move any individual object on it, I actually am just going to have to make sure um, that I can get some textures working. Now, you should know how to put your textures in by now. If not, then whatever. Um, Usually, when you import an object from, like Sketchfab or something like that, it should already have all the information for the texture's location set up for you, but we're going to need to be changing all that anyway. So as I discussed before in previous textures video, I wanted to put both of these textures onto one sheet. And so I took, that one and I combined it with the gold one and it made a big solid one. And I also had to make a PNG because, as you know, Blender doesn't really use DDS, which is super annoying. I couldn't even find a tool to load DDS files. Um, so yeah, we're gonna open it and then we're gonna find the combined image, which, like I said before, I've already shown how to do it. It's pretty easy. All you did was 200% and then slap both of them on there. I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit because we've already done this before in other videos. It's um, just make sure you have everything selected and you have the texture view selected. And then when I click on this object, it's going to be rendered into uh, a different window. So I just gotta also tell it that it's the same piece. Bam. And then I'm just gonna change this one to it's this normal map. See if there's anything else. No? Okay. But yeah, so it works. Cool. So I did decide to not use the two-in-one template yet because I wanted to add some dust to these, to the hat and to the glasses, some either dust or snow, whatever the environment is that this particular crab is going to be in. It's not an important step for you. I just wanted to say that I'm obviously editing it, so it's going to look slightly different in a few seconds in the video. Um, but yeah, so I just wanted to double check the uh, the UV. As you can see, we're in the wrong picture for that specific UV, but just make sure everything's gonna work and line up like I promised. There we go. We got 2-in-1. All right, now I got to make sure the material knows that it's using this new chart and not the old one. So if we go back in here, we just gotta switch these over to the new one. Uh, Should be that one. Yep. And you could tell it's different because it changed the glasses. And the reason it's doing that is because the UV map itself, all the lines and shit, it's still sitting in the same place as the other uh, diffuse map or the albedo map. So I gotta manually adjust the UVs on these for the new image. Um, see how it's that big. I gotta actually make it. I gotta push S and then you type point 0.5 and then you click enter or push enter and then you push G and you can move it around. And the reason is because remember we made the image 200% bigger in order to fit two maps on there, but the UV map just thinks it's a normal size, so it tries to fill up the entire space. But since we doubled the space of the image, we have to half the size of the UV map. So just get them in there. Thankfully, the textures show up in real time. You may have to zoom in. It is pretty annoying having the gold outline while you're trying to line things up, but just line it up the best you can. I'm sure you can find some mathematical way, being that it's uh, a half size UV, two times size map, but for some reason I just can't get it to work, so I manually adjust it. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead because I've already done a video on this. Alright, so now a part of the attach FLVER thing we're going to do is remove everything that has anything to do with the crab. Wow, what the hell is that? That's disgusting. But we're going to move everything that's related to the crab. We don't need anything. We don't need the skeleton. We really seriously don't need anything. We're not going to use anything at all. And then we're going to join these together because we want them to stay as one thing. Um, One thing that I will say that is going to be different in the next video talking about the errors you might get is you could have multiple materials. Thankfully, this is all like one material, but if you have multiple materials, then in your FLVER editor, you'll see like you'll have one object, but you'll see like four different places to input to textures. And that's because you have too many materials listed in your Blender. So I would suggest deleting extra materials you don't need. Um, but yeah, so we're going to get a fresh FLVER thing and we're going to rename it. So this is a template, so there's not going to be anything but a dummy on it. I don't know why I did just, okay, I just want to edit it first. All right, we're going to name it hat, open it up, and it should, like I just said, be completely empty. Now we're going to import the model that we were just working on. Sorry, sometimes I have a brain fart when I'm doing things. I gotta figure out where the hell I put it. No, there it is. All right, it's two meshes. So that means there's gonna be, um, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's gonna be two materials. All right, so that's perfect. Make sure that you apply transition, transformations or whatever. Otherwise, that could be all over the place. So yeah, so it's requiring two locations, so we're gonna put that one in there, and what am I doing? I wanted to see if I put it in here yet. No, but we're gonna paste it in there then. All right, I want to use this location just because that's what I'm gonna be using in the main project, or the main FLVER file. All right, yeah, everything in there looks good. Make sure it's a DDS because we can't use PNGs. And since it's an albedo, we're going to use BC1, sRGB, and then naturally we need to make sure that the XML file is updated with the new image that we put in. And since this is the low version, or the L version, we got to make sure it has an L. So as usual, I'm just going to grab the albedo of another file and just replace the name of it because it'll all be formatted the same. And the game will recognize that. What did I name this? Crab? I think that's right. Go ahead and save it. Bam. And now we need to make sure the other file obviously has it. The H file is a little bit more important because that's what we're tying everything to. Make sure you pack everything. That'll definitely be an issue if you don't pack the TPF along with the main file. Doesn't matter what order you do this in, just make sure that you do it. You have to exit or you have to edit the XML file. The only way you can get away with not editing the XML file is if you completely replace one of the images inside of it and just rename it to that image. But I like adding new images. Anyway, so all of the images in my H file, all the images in my L file, everything's packed, everything should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and save this FLVER by just making sure I click modify on everything. And then we shall open up the crab version. All right, let's open it. We got the crab, and it should have nothing except just raw crab, just exactly what the game goes. So we're not going to do import, we're going to click attach. And so we clicked mesh, we click attach, and then we find that FLVER file that we were just making and we renamed it hat. Remember that. So let's find that. There it is. Click it, and it's not going to show up immediately, so we click modify first, and then bam. So I'm going to skip the visual for this portion. I'm sorry if you needed it. You can see it plenty of other places, but you obviously would go to material. You could either do this step in the dummy file, the template file, or you can do it now, or you can do both. But what you're going to do is click material, and then you're going to just assign the material like you normally would. Now, keep in mind that portion could be an error for you. And I have the video talking about one of the possible errors and how to fix it, which would be when you got like your error, it wouldn't be like an error message, it would be more like the body textures are bleeding over onto the new texture that you imported, which in our case would be the top hat. So then we would have like crab skin all over it and stuff. Um, Another error would be just not having texture show up at all. And in this case, that's how I'm going to solve it, because in the next video, I couldn't get Kermit to have a texture. And it was really odd, but the dummy file was the one that needed the texture. Anyway, I'll show you that visually, but just make sure you get the material loaded in its right spot. I would highly recommend, even if your import didn't include a normal map, go to normalmaponline.com and make a normal map, because there's a very high chance you'll get some um, jank ass problems if you don't do that. Just put a normal map in there. You don't need a metallic map unless you want one, but it's not required. I just at least get an albedo and a normal. In this particular video, I couldn't find the exact crab, but this was another crab. This one didn't have the snow on it, but I did end up finding it like 15 minutes later. It was a dungeon crab. But yeah, so it worked. As you can see, it works here with the original version. I did it twice just to make sure I could replicate it. And yeah, so now it's on Nexus Mods for everybody to download and whatever the fucking word is for remembering the old Skyrim mod and memes. Anyway, I hope that helped you out learning the attach process. It's pretty much the same thing as importing a model, except you do all the work beforehand in order to get, two FLVERs together.